really well adapted to be stealth hunters, and one of those adaptations is to have as little weatherproofing in their feathers as possible. Naturally, a bird with lots of weatherproofing oils on their feathers, they're going to be quite loud, but they will survive quite well out in the rain. But for someone like Tyto here, if it were to start chucking it down with rain, Tyto would start to become very heavy because he'll be soaking up all that water, basically like a sponge. And a flying sponge doesn't work very well. So particularly when it rains, barns are a perfect place for retreat. However, nowadays, due to things like barn conversions,
hello, Michael.
Health and safety
Say hello to Facebook.
Hello. All of our barns having less and less little cracks and crevices and holes inside. Food is now being kept in and stored in a completely different way. Therefore, there are less mice and rats hanging about your barns. So, less ideal place for the barn owl.
I'll come behind your glove.
Nowadays, you will actually find quite a few of them flying across your hedgerow. We've got a lot of barn owls here down in Sussex. Quite a few people might have seen them. Even driving along in your car, you can possibly see a barn owl flying nearby because they're using their hedgerow as a nice bit of shelter. Also, there are mice in the hedge, and again, nice and ideal for hunting. And because these guys are such stealthy animals, first of all, the serrated edges along their wings being able to cut through the air, reducing wind resistance and noise, and also, like I say, how soft their feathers are. These guys can very easily sneak up on their prey without them even noticing. But it looks like that's it for Tyto. So Michael's just going to take Tyto back to his aviary. As you can see, he's got his nice, big, juicy bit of food. Tyso's going to be very pleased with that, and he'll quite happily rest and relax in his aviary. So a nice little round of applause for Tyto and Michael. They've done a great job. Amazing. So with each of our owls, this time that we take them outside, there's their time to fly, their time to stretch their wings, essentially be energized and have nice, healthy muscles. Now,
Who's next?
What?
Who's next?
Snowies.
Okay. Are they already in the hold'em?
Yeah. Just put these back and then me and Ben are going to fly. Oh, he's already got one.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Yep.
So the snowy owls are going to be next to be flown.
Dimorphism between the male and the female is sort of easier to spot with your snowy owls because of that sort of pale colour for the male and the sort of charcoaly colour for the female. In other owl species, such as your barn owls, one might have speckles on its chest, and that's a bit of a giveaway. The other way to tell the difference between male and female is if one starts laying eggs, then there's definitely...
So this is the first flying two birds at the same time?
This is the first in our display. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks with Everest and K2, which are our two snowy owls.
Now, for us, we don't breed our owls,
be careful, they'll bite you.
So we don't actually have to worry about getting
so we've got the two. We've got Everest up there, which is our slightly larger one, and then we've got K2, which is there, which is our little male.
With these two snowy owls, we have Everest,
we say
who's
larger
the
one,
female,
we did originally think they might have been a
K2,
female.
who is the male.
However,
Everest is a bit more of an active flyer than K2
colouring,
at the moment.
so it may just be that
She's
they're two of the same sex. Everest is by
Now,
far
what
a
we're
lot
doing
more
at the moment
competent
is
than
a little bit different to the
K2 at
training
the
that
moment.
we'll do.
And as you can see, they are very eager. These guys were only born back in May, so they're still getting used to being out
With
there
our other owls,
on the
we
field.
simply call them...
But I'm still going to give Michael a hand.
Yes, I think so. Stop talking to me. Go.
Call them to the club, we give them a reward for showing a good behaviour, which is the flight. In the early stages, we'll simply offer food, we'll whistle as we give them food, and then when they're starting to be able to fly, we do short flights to begin with to the glove or post, and then work away the
So we're doing a slightly different type of training with these owls. What we want them to do is something called circuits. So we want them to do a big circular flight around the field. Now the best way we find to do that is to let them do it of their own accord. So Everest may do that today, but she's looking quite warm at the moment. Basically she'll do a big circle, and once she lands, we feed her. We don't do any post flights, we don't do any gruff flights. Literally all we want her to do is those circuits. So it's a lot of just standing around, sadly, which may not always be the most exciting thing in the world, and waiting for them to do the behaviour we want. As we reward them more for doing it, it's going to increase in regularity. They're going to do it more and more. So you think, if I do that, I get fed, and it'll mean the wait time is a lot less. So at the moment, we've only been doing it about a week and a half, so it's early days. But Everest is the one to watch. She's the one who's done it most days for the last week, so we will see. If you want to tell them apart, have a little look at the faces. Everest has got a much whiter face than K2. They're of course named after two mountains.
You may see they start to pan just a little bit. That's just a nice little tactic of helping them to cool down. Naturally, snowy owls, we will be flying them closer to the winter months. Because they are currently babies, they are about 5 months old or so. We obviously want to implement as much training into them as possible because it's much better to do at a younger age, especially when they're babies. So the reason why these guys are a little bit warm and we're possibly a little bit chilly is because we're adapted very differently. Snowy owls, they can't thermoregulate that well. We do all sorts. We sweat, we shiver, we have blood vessels rising to the surface or retreating. For these guys, they are just simply hot owls. In fact, their feathers are designed in such a way that they're adapted to your snowy and icy temperatures. So with most of your owl species, their feathers will sort of essentially be adjacent to each other and parallel to each other, and they'll allow air to simply pass straight through, making them sort of quieter flyers. For snowy owls, their feathers are cross-hatched, and it works just a little bit like a knitted sweater. Imagine having a knitted sweater all year long. So when it comes to December, it's going to be perfect for these guys because they'll be all nice and snugged up and warm. But right now, or certainly in the summer months, it's a little bit hot. So sometimes what we do is we have a little hose and we spray over their enclosure, and they like to get underneath the water as well. They have a nice little shower. Now, right now, what they're doing, it looks like they're dancing. Anyone reckon it looks like they're dancing? Or do they just look really sassy? Not me. So what's happening right now is they're basically taking in everything around them. So they will bob their heads and twist them around for a couple of different reasons. One of them is for sight. So when they bob their heads around, it actually helps them focus. Can you guys try that for me? Try bobbing your head up and down. Is that helping you focus at all? If anyone says yes, you lie. So it's very different for an owl because of the shape of their eyes. Now, can anyone guess what shape do you think an owl's eyes are? You can shout it out if you want to, or put your hand up. Cone, yes, perfect. So owl's eyes, they'll start off quite large at the front, and as they work their way towards the back of the skull, they just get slightly smaller. It's basically acts a little bit like binoculars or a fancy camera, so they'll be focusing in on their prey. Once they've locked in on, say, a rabbit from a mile away, they'll launch down and obviously catch them. For these guys in the wild, it'll be things like ducks, possibly Arctic hares, and some other small birds as well.
I think it might be a little bit warm for them today. Obviously, as Mark was saying, because they're built for Arctic temperatures.
So one's here and one's down there. So owls have
they sort of know their limits. So if they decide not to fly, usually it's because it's either too hot or there's a camera there, which usually as soon as we want an animal to do a behaviour we want it to do, they don't do it when people are looking, which is really helpful.
So they can listen out for each and every hello.
Yeah.
They can listen out for the heartbeat of their prey. No, I'm not food.
Mark.
Yeah, I'll come out the arena. We'll end shortly anyway. You're right. That's my hand. So what they'll do, they'll act a little bit like a satellite dish. They'll twist their head side to side, and as they do that, they're fine-tuning the sound. Essentially, so it hits the ear at a certain point. pinpoint the sound. So for our Arctic hare, that might be scuttling around the snow. Although they be perfectly well camouflaged for that white background, they can just simply listen out for their prey. And like I say, as soon as they lock in and launch down onto them, they'll be successful. But we are pretty much going to end it there for our show. There we are. You're welcome to stick around longer and we'll happily answer any questions that you have. But thank you so much for coming, guys. It's been absolutely wonderful. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
So because Everest has done a nice big flight and a nice little circuit around the arena, Ben is just simply giving lots and lots of food to her in the hope that she does it again in the future. And this will just simply be the process. K2 gets a bit confused when she leaves him there.
So essentially what we're wanting is a much larger version of what Everest just did. So when we've done it before, what she'll do is she'll go up, and what we want to do is basically cover the pillows to the side and then come around up there. So basically a magnified version of what just happened. We'll still leave them out for a few more minutes, just let them get acclimatised, and hopefully doing a little bit more of that.
Lying around.
They do have sort of charcoal like those there, so yeah, you might have picked up a smelly up there.
No,
I'm not.
yeah.
We can have a little look around in the centre. Yeah, you pop around the centre after the show. I'll see if I can find it. So we got these guys. We got these guys from about 3.5 months old. So yeah, we. Only recently got. They are lovely. We're hoping that we don't. Around 3 years old, they can get a little bit iffy. That's generally snowy out in general. We'll just simply track their progress. If every show they just start fighting all the time, then there's no point flying them. Naturally, when you have 2 rounds together, you have to keep them in.